Housekeeping, please help me welcome our speaker, the delightful Robyn Defelice. Robyn is the founder of Rad Learning and a learning entrepreneur and consultant. Robyn, we are thrilled to have you with us. This session is all yours.
Thank you, Casey. I really appreciate this opportunity. This is the first of three that I will be doing with ELB Learning because my book, Maximizing the Power of Microlearning, will be coming out March 31st. And so we thought there's three sections to the book, so we will tackle each section of the book through a webinar. So I hope you join us for all three. So this one focuses on section one. And so today we're having a little bit of a reality check, and we're going to talk about little bits of misconceptions to results to kind of get your brain framed for the day. But before I do that, I have just a little bit of a story to tell you. And please don't fall asleep. I know it's noon. You might not have lunch. But 'twas the night before the launch, and all through the L&D process, the stakeholder said, just make it shorter. The request seemed simple, a quick fix in sight, but no one asked what microlearning meant that night. It must be digital, one leader declared, bite-sized and quick so no one is scared. They'll do it in the flow of work, no time lost. But no one stopped to consider the cost. We'll convert what we have, it's just cutting it down. Now three times the content, and L&D has a frown. We'll launch it and done. They'll figure it out. But help desk tickets, they are all, and we've got them throughout. So thanks for my little story. I wanted to just put some holiday cheer and smiles on your face. So, by the way, these really aren't made up. These are real things that L&D professionals have told me over the last several years since I co-authored Microlearning Short and Sweet. And so I thought it would be kind of fun to just bust some myths, but with merriment, not misery. And I want to dig in with you. So let's get started. That's kind of where we're going today. So before we jump right into microlearning, the thing I'd like you to do is unwrap the gift of Visor. Visor is a framework I use for everything. You will actually see it in my book, and it's with section 2, but it applies here, and you'll see it throughout all three webinars that we do together. And Visor means validate, innovate, spark, and reflect. And so validate, I'll put them in, innovate, spark, and the R stands for reflect, refine, and revise. And what does this even mean? Why am I telling you to unwrap this before we even get started? Because today, some things I might say to you might validate something you're already doing. Go forth in confidence. Sometimes when we're doing things that are novel to us or we don't feel we're the authority on it, we're not sure. I'm not even the authority. I'm one of many people that are highly experienced in microlearning. I could sit here right now and tell you about Carla Torgeson or Shannon Tipton, but we all know that it's really important to help you validate what you do know and what you are doing well. So that's the V in Visor. And innovate. Maybe something today just gets you to go, I didn't think about that. And now I can actually re-swizzle. Great, you're innovating. Or it's, wow, I didn't even know that was real. What am I not doing? And maybe it's sparks a new idea for you. Perfect. Love the sparks because we all do, right? We want to be creative in these roles. And finally, that R, why it's a couple things. Sometimes it makes us reflect. Sometimes it makes us want to go back and refine or even revise. And that's okay. It's a nice cyclical loop. I just wanted you to unwrap that gift for yourself as you take on this new content from today's session. Okay. So let's go. And this was also to stall just a little bit so you could pull out your phones. You're going to need your phones a little bit throughout or something that will scan a QR code. But the first thing I have up for us is just a word cloud. And I would love for you to get into Slido. You just take you a minute there to get in, or you can go slido.com and put in that code if you're doing it from your desktop. Either way, you can participate. I already see I have one participant, somebody pretty fast actually. So what does microlearning mean at your organization is what we're looking for right now. And so we see shorter learning and short, everything's short, like me and my mother. Bite size, something, okay, maybe we're into the food mode here. I'm actually hungry. I haven't eaten. Focused, I love it. Quick, okay. Quick and short, perfect. Do we ever wonder how and why we need 50 to 60 minutes to talk about microlearning and to define it and discuss it when microlearning's short and sweet. So here with nothing yet. Okay, so nothing yet. That's totally okay. That it's not anything for you. Short to the point, digestible, depends on who you're asking, whoever said that, clause all around for you. Okay, now we're seeing something else. We're seeing a definition of 10 minutes or less. We're also seeing very tiny beside the word short in the middle. To the left of it, we're seeing one subject. We're seeing just in time. We're seeing 3 to 5 minutes. So now we're starting to see a whole bunch of different perspectives about what microlearning means. So let's think about that. Okay, I just got to find my mouse here. So let's think about it. If we just saw all those things, right, on the word cloud, there's what we're describing. Is it a delivery method? Should we assume we're talking about the same thing? No. What if you all got together and were given a microlearning project to do right now? You would definitely be focused different ways. And I bet some of you were answering for what you thought, or what your organization says, or what a stakeholder's been telling you. So, yes, a little bit of childhood nostalgia going on. I'm actually wearing a little, and it jingles. That's my grandmother crocheted that for me when I was a child. So, we're having a nostalgia day too. But if we want to think about microlearning, we have to see that word cloud differently. Some people talked about it from a purpose and potential standpoint. They said it's a concept. So conceptually, what will it do? It will serve us and it'll cut down seat time for learning. It will help people do their job better, right? It's conceptual because they're talking about its potential or its purpose of what it might be able to do. And then if we look at the method, some folks were saying, where it needed to be. And so we think about things like, is it web-based? Is it, some digital piece? Maybe it's a infographic that sticks on the soft wall of the cube of your, little office space. So we also might want to think about how often it's delivered, the frequency of it, or duration. So, not just duration of the segment, the microlearning piece, like 10 minutes, but duration, like how long might you actually deliver from a frequency standpoint, microlearning? So, method's a pretty big idea there, right? And then we think about products, the tangible, our buddy, the Bumble. And sometimes the reason why I chose the Bumble was because sometimes, the Bumble is elusive. But we want a tangible microlearning product, right? We want the thing that everybody will consume or engage with. And so we need to start thinking about the fact that that word cloud, if I go back, right? We see everything I just talked about. We see duration, we see digestible, that's more conceptual. One of the things we're not really seeing, like chunks, we're not really seeing the product here. Nobody said like a video or an e-learning module or a email, but those would be products, that tangible. So one more thing there is that's a term that some people use. So some people have other terms, but I use the term campaign. And a campaign isn't just one product. It's Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, each one doing something to get us in the same direction. So a campaign is a bundling of microlearning products. And so instead of it being a single product or a single delivery method, which we're used to traditionally, right? One and done's, it's more of a comprehensive campaign that's trying to get you to know more knowledge or be more informed or to develop a skill, or to some people said, do something in the moment, like in a workflow. So performance based. And so just wanted to share that idea of a campaign as well. So why don't we do a little bit of activity here in the chat? Let's play some reindeer games. We'll just do two of these, but here's a scenario on screen. And you tell me in chat, do you think it's a concept, a method, a product, campaign, mixture of both? What do you think when you see this information? And yes, this is a quote that came from a client. So I'll put the choices in: concepts, method, product, or campaign. I'm putting them in, Michelle. There you go. concept, method, product, or maybe it's a campaign. Who knows? Lots of product. We see some concepts. I see a lot of product going on here. Okay. So it sounds like folks are saying product. Mix of all, Hillary says. It's a campaign. So many options. Product or a campaign. Is it one thing or many? So here's the thing. The VP wants to give sales reps something short so they can do it between calls to stay sharp. Here's where I'm trying to bring us to. Listen or read the email. They want somebody to stay sharp. That is the purpose behind what they want. It is the purpose and potential of the microlearning. This is actually a concept. Your VP does not understand the product, the tangible. They just want something that keeps somebody sharp. That something hopefully will be defined by you. If they would have said, I want a video to keep them sharp, we would have had a mix of a product and concept because their belief is that they will be sharp because you gave them videos of some specific content to get them sharp. So that's might be getting you to go a little bit head scratchy. But this has been the challenge for 5 years. We're talking across one another. We're not talking with each other. Excuse me a moment, please. I have to find my mute. I do apologize. Sometimes it gets dry in the house. So again, as I was sharing, it's all about, excuse me again. I'm so sorry. Just politeness to turn off your screen when you're coughing and turning red, but I'm clearly okay now. All right. Yes, my tea is right here. Yes, a unicorn. Okay. So folks, what I'm glad I saw somebody say that explanation makes sense. So it's me helping you understand that one of the very important things, especially for those that maybe have tried microlearning and you're having a real struggle in your organization, go back and revisit the conversations or maybe an email that you got from the stakeholder. And you might find they're not talking the same as you. Or for those that haven't started at all, because I think somebody said nothing yet in the word cloud. Again, think about how your team, your L&D function wants to define it so that when you're out talking to a stakeholder and it's an option, you can really tune into what they're saying. So let's do one more. How about this one? What do we think? Oh, Matt, I love what you set up there. So as we're scurrying through now saying what it is, Matt was saying that to follow up on a question like that from his VP, he'd be asking them to define sharp with product knowledge or skills. You're getting to something else I'll talk about here in a moment. So we see products and concepts, we see method and product, campaign, many products. And you know what? This one is tricky. There's product language. We see 5-minute video, right? We see method language. Um, weekly. So, right, weekly. Remember, method is duration and frequency and a delivery method. So, we got a lot of method language in here. And then we also start to realize, boy, that probably means a campaign of products. So, you were getting it, right? You were getting it. So, this is something else. This was no joke. This was a stakeholder in a commercial sales entity that needed they felt that the people that were doing the commercial sales weren't doing some compliance well. So they wanted something to help their people understand some compliance topics that were risky. And this stakeholder had a clear vision of what they thought microlearning would do. So, but I bet you're all going again, but there's so much more. You're right. It's loaded with assumptions, right? I bet you could spot a lot of them. Can anybody spot a lot of the assumptions? There's easily five sitting in here. Want to put that in chat as well. We can start to play around with that. And I want to see if you'll touch on something that we'll move to next. Any assumptions you're seeing? What are the high risk topics, right? Lori's point, do we need it? So we're kind of getting that only three videos to Matt's point. Is it just three compliance issues? Would three times being exposed to one topic each time actually do anything in a microlearning campaign? Why push them weekly? So now here we're going, push the product. Okay. Who determines what is high risk? And will they watch them? And somebody saying email? Okay. So let me position those questions a little differently to you now. Do we have a system that can push videos in an email? Do we have the capability to create 5-minute videos? Do we have the capability to push video, right? Create it or push it. And then if we push it, do we have the ability in-house to know if somebody clicked open, clicked through? Did they do anything with it? Do we know this? Do we have the capability to do it? Better yet, do we have the capacity to do it? And then accessibility, let's think about, can the audience access that video in their workflow? Why would they be accessing it in their workflow? Is there a different way we should be? So tons and tons of assumptions in here. But I asked you something a little more meta than some of the things that were sitting here, which is great because this is 100% needs analysis sitting right here in the chat, and you're doing a great job. So I'm taking you one level higher again and saying, do we have capability? Do we have capacity? Do we have infrastructure? So as we're thinking about our microlearning, think about these things. There's three factors I like folks to think about. So we just thought about three things, right? We just thought about, did somebody just talk to me conceptually? Did somebody talk to me with a menagerie of concepts and products? And it sounds like there's the potential maybe for a campaign, but we won't worry about that. They're so fixated on the method, I'm not even sure what we're doing, what the purpose is. And when you weed all of that out, there's still another expectation sitting there that you will do it. And so again, the question becomes, can you? And can you around infrastructure? Can you around your capabilities? And can you around capacity? And again, think about that last scenario. That capacity wasn't just all L&D. If we were to actually execute that email campaign, would we not maybe need the help of IT? Do they have the capability? Do they have the capacity? Do they have the infrastructure? Oh, things started to get bigger, didn't they, right? So why don't we take a quick moment here, come back to another poll, because we're going to tie these two things together. Let's see where we're all at. Where are you in what you're doing with microlearning? Now, I know some of you aren't, but maybe some of you do, and maybe some of you do a mixture. So I'll pause here a moment and let you jump in on this poll. Oh, wow. Okay. So I think you're seeing on screen here. So we have a combination here, whether it's knowledge and skills, skills and performance, not quite sure, but this is really cool to see a mix of the two being the predominant runner. Usually when I do this survey, I get a majority of knowledge, or more interesting, which will drive home a point in a moment, I get a lot of performance. And then that number changes by the end of the session. So still, again, very big mix here, which is, I would imagine it's usually knowledge and skills that are mixed together here. Okay, so this kind of gives us a who's who in the zoo on what they're doing here with microlearning. So just to make sure, again, we're all on the same page, because I asked you that question before I gave you definitions. So typically when we're thinking about microlearning and knowledge, we're thinking again about just recall and retention, maybe product knowledge, maybe compliance, right? We can think about all sorts of things that we can recall, new hire training, maybe the basics of a framework of conflict resolution or some type of change management model, right? Those would all be things that would fit into knowledge. Skill-based, again, well, go back to conflict resolution. It could be the practicing of identifying a situation that's escalating to conflict. It could be that you need to give some constructive criticism on a performance review. It could be objection handling during a sales call. So skills, helping people practice and develop their abilities. And this is where the piece gets a little like, well, what's performance versus skill? Performance is more about in a micro learning sense. And I borrow this from Carla Torgeson because I think her and I see eye to eye on this. We're talking more about in the flow. So sometimes there's these really cool tools that I've seen that are like AI based micro learning agents that can say, hey, customer care rep, I see you're about to take a call for a return and you haven't done a return in a while. Would you like to watch this quick video that goes over the return process? There, that's performance based. Or, oh, it's that time of the year to give performance reviews. Hey, we're going to push out a small mini campaign on how to do what the process is, knowledge, how we want you to write your performance reviews, skill, and how you can handle having difficult conversations with your people when you do your performance reviews. More skill. And I would actually call that a bit of a performance-based campaign because we're doing it in the moment of need in the workflow. Maybe we pepper it through, right? So we could do something like that. And that gets us at supporting in the workflow, doing some tasks. And let's just say we push that campaign out there and it's not forced upon you. You take each piece and do it as each task comes up. So the next month is about filling out the forms. The next month is about having the meetings, that type of thing. So you could do it that way. So now let's tie it all together. We just talked about microlearning has some unique characteristics around it when we say that term and people begin to talk. Then we started to realize there's different types of microlearning, such as knowledge and skills and performance based. But in between is this glue piece, which is infrastructure, capacity, and capability. What does this all mean? Let's tie it together. Like, let's check your readiness. So if you have just one thing going on, such as you only have minimal viable technology from an infrastructure standpoint, so you have like a basic LMS, you have simple content tools, and you only ever do standard completion tracking, like did they complete it, didn't they? Did they pass the test with 80% or 100% or didn't they? Then you're really sitting in a knowledge-based infrastructure. Excuse and you're sitting on a knowledge-based infrastructure, and therefore maybe you've decided to design performance-based, but you're really not getting performance-based out of it or data out of it. Now, I'm not saying that that's impossible. There's, variability to everything because none of us in L&D could ever say that our solutions would be cookie cutter across every single industry and place, right? We all know this for a fact. But if you're looking for bare minimal viables, think about this and think about, well, did I just say I can do other things and I can't? So again, because here's where I'm trying to get you to go. Remember, this whole conversation is about you and what you know, but it's also about how you talk to your stakeholders. And borrowing from my great friend Jess Amelie and her L&D Order Taker No More, we have to be strategic, trusted advisors, right? So, Shauna, great question. Where would behavior-based fit in here? So behavior-based is more of what I would call the A that's missing from here. There's KSPA, attitudes. So an attitude is not a skill per se. It's definitely behavior. You can blend that in. I would almost call that, in my world, in Robyn's world, behavior is always baked in. So to me, it's always sitting there, even though I don't show it as something defined as a channel. There's behavior and how you want people to retain knowledge about the culture. Like, culture can be something that you teach during onboarding, and it can be super boring or it can be super engaging. I could have came at this and created a behavior and an essence in this whole entire session of boredom, but I wanted merriment, right? So it's all about how we design for that behavior and what we want them to emulate. Now, I do believe, Shauna, you might also be asking about behavior you want them to emulate, demonstrate, or hold, such as like a leader characteristic or something like that. So that's a combination of designing for behavior and skills. So I think it fits in wherever you believe it should go. I don't think it necessarily needs its own bucket, but I love that you asked that. So let's go to the next one. So I said infrastructure. So now we have to do capabilities, and capabilities is a lot about when I said infrastructure, capabilities, and capacity. We have to think about our technology, our processes, and our people. So I'm going to write that into the chat too. So we have technology slash infrastructure, and my spelling's wrong, but we have processes and we have people. And so now we're looking at the processes. So if we have simple approval workflows for our processes, and we're saying, what kind of processes? Well, sometimes when we design training for knowledge, it goes way faster because it's just like something we need them to recall. It's more factual, maybe conceptual. But when we get to maybe skills and performance based, we might have higher level approval systems where we might have to go to more stakeholders. We might have to involve a subject matter expert more. We might have to fit it more to a norm of the organization and its culture. So the approval process might be a little more in volume. And so we have to think about that. But there's also, and this might get at some of what you're asking about too, Shauna, is about like we have to think about feedback mechanisms here because if we are about to observe our employees doing something and we have a rubric in hand, we have to think about the feedback mechanisms because even microlearning can have those pieces. What if we created a whole campaign that was like a new, like you could start to develop yourself as a manager and start to develop leadership skills? And so this whole cohort went through. And then the managers got a rubric or a survey to fill out so that they could weigh in and say, this is what I've been observing. You have to think about, do I have a feedback mechanism, Luke? What does it look like? Is the one I'm envisioning more robust than my infrastructure, my technology? Okay, I might be not be able to do skill level training at the way I thought. So again, we have to think about these things. And then finally, the people, you, the elves, the people that have to do. But remember, I said earlier, we have other people that are doing other things for us too, like IT, or we might be partnering with HR to use their performance review system, right? Or it could be it could be a number of different departments that you're interacting with. But at the end of the day, do those people have the skills? And one of the challenges I have been noticing very much for many organizations over the years is that if you are very familiar with either one of two things, and like an instructor-led training, whether it's virtual or face-to-face, or you've just done a lot of long form e-learning. So that's the term I use, long form, to kind of distinguish it a little bit from microlearning. The challenge becomes dialing it in, or the challenge becomes I only have this much time to gain their attention and share just the bare minimum information. How do I do that? And what inevitably comes a challenge is this piece of microlearning becomes more long form, or instead of people that have done instructor-led training and they want to complement it with microlearning. So the in-betweens of those training moments, they want to pepper in some microlearning campaigns. The challenge becomes in being able to engage them like they would if they were in person. So there's all these things that maybe from a skill set that you're not ready to do yet. So we have to think about that. Or again, like data and analytics, if we really want performance-based data, we might not be data fluent. We might not have data literacy as part of our capability set right now. We really have to think about that. And again, all these quotes, any quote you see are quotes that came from clients. I know I'm hoping none of my clients are sitting here going, boy, that sounded like me about a year ago. But it's not to call out a client and say shame on them. It's the reality of the words that we hear. So I want to keep giving you evidence of it's in front of you, listen for it, and then start to ask yourself, well, how can I better manage to that? So where can you get started? Excuse I kind of just tapped into it a little bit ago. It's the mindset. So there's three things that you can do. And guess what? This gift is not just for you to think about you and your team. This gift gives you the idea and a framework to think about how your stakeholders, how your SMEs, anybody that you're working with, whether it's for a microlearning project or not, you can start to get in tune with them. So the mindset, what do you believe microlearning can and do and what it is? Define that for your organization. It's okay to do that. But I'd rather you do it up against some of the stuff that I presented to you today so you could create a better microlearning strategy. When we start with the word cloud and go create a product, we don't have necessarily a strategy sitting in between that allows us to have really good strategic conversations with stakeholders to say, that's not tangible right now, or that's not something we can do for you, but we can do this. We can, at a bare minimum, give you the knowledge and we will work towards the skills. That's the beauty of this. Once you kind of know where your baseline is on like your infrastructure, your capabilities and capacity, you can start to grow. But you've got to start somewhere. And that somewhere is defining what microlearning means for your organization and what it means for your organization today and where you believe you would like to see it go and grow for you and your people. And then the skill set. What can your team actually design and deliver based off of your current set of capabilities, your current infrastructure? And the thing that I kind of was quiet about was the capacity. I have talked to people, and I don't know if any of you are sitting in the room. I've literally talked to different L&D folk that said, I have to maintain all of the old training, long form, and I have to now cut it up and make it into microlearning, and I have to maintain both ways. Case in point, a law firm had a person break down over 7 to 15 hours of video into 70 plus mini microlearning videos. They had to maintain the long and the short. So every time the long got fixed or updated or corrected, they had to go in and find all the mini videos and recreate them too. So now your capacity is being chewed up differently. And as you might imagine, capacity is also being changed in the sense of how you start your project. We talked about frequency and duration and how many times we might expose or provide something in a campaign. That's a lot of upfront planning that we may not have normally done with a long form training or setting up an instructor-led training. Maybe you do. And if you do, great. Because remember, go back to that gift advisor that's validating something for you, validating that maybe you do have some capabilities from a process standpoint that will be strengths for you in developing a microlearning strategy. And what's the tool set? The tool set are the tools, right? Like the different things you might have, whether that's tools such as we have the video creation, we have a delivery platform, we have mechanisms to go back and forth on, that type of thing. So that's the tool set piece of things. Now, how can you even get started with any of this stuff? You can start to think about a few things, and one of which is doing a pilot. And how do you use these gifts first? Well, you need to know what you're being asked for. You need to know what your organization can support, and you need to know yourself and your team. And when you know those things, I'm going to tell you, go back and pick a project. So pick any type of thing that you think will help you. My strongest encouragement for any of you that have not tried microlearning or have tried microlearning and not thinking it's giving you the results you want, find some content that's more static for your organization and convert. I didn't say chop up, convert your micro to microlearning if it has purpose and potential for your organization. If you just want it to be skill leveled in a one and done kind of thing, then create some type of microlearning pilot that allows you to do that. Great places I've seen a lot of organizations start is with compliance training, which is why it was such a predominant conversation piece, because it's some of the most boring annual training you get. But because it's a one and done annually, sometimes we see high risk come out of that because certain skills, practices, regulations are not being followed, or they're followed in the beginning of the year and they dip, soon thereafter. And so having refresher microlearning campaigns dig at some of the complexity of risk and compliance topics over the duration of a quarter, a year, a half a year, whatever it is, has demonstrably improved KPIs for organizations. And a lot of times it's not the knowledge, it's the skill. And it's helping people maybe be more aware of that skill at work performance based, or it's helping them identify it, it's helping them apply it, it's helping them be more confident in knowing if they have identified it and they should do something about it, or they've identified it and handled it correctly. This is where microlearning can be a great friend to your compliance pieces. So why don't you pilot one and try it out and get some, surveys and do some things that will help you start to see, oh, we kind of shot the moon and didn't make the mark. We didn't have enough capacity to do this, or we didn't have external infrastructure to handle it. And that pilot will then help you kind of benchmark to where you want to go. So this screen here is saying, go get a baseline. And then I'm saying, go try something on a pilot format that's kind of low risk, low stakes, low capacity, isn't taking up a lot of time or predominantly taking away your team from doing the standard project, work and roadmap that you have, and give yourself the opportunity for it. So if you see on screen a scan me, it's because some of this you're like, okay, that was a lot, Robyn. And that's okay, because the one thing, if you've been scanning, and maybe you can give me a little reaction in the good old chat if you've been able to access this, but this little handy dandy tool is a quick and dirty. Now I have a bigger version in the book when it comes out, and that comes out March 31st. But this is some of what I just showed you on screen. So here it's a implementation readiness quick assessment. So here you can start to assess if you can implement really well, because that's the thing. It's an implementation reality. What you're implementing is microlearning right now today. Is it really serving what you wanted it to serve? And if you wanted to do something bigger and more, do you even know what you need to know to go do that? So I wanted to give you a taste today of what you can have. So it goes right through technology readiness, and I'll scroll down. Here's process readiness. We talked about this. Think about, do you even have a process for how you curate your content? Would that need to change? Would you use AI for this? That type of thing. And people readiness. We have to think about L&D. This is really important. We have to think about our capabilities. And this is why I stress this one a lot, because a lot of times L&D folk that come to me to ask for help aren't stretching beyond their department, not recognizing that this is where you become more of a cross-functional support mechanism when you're trying to distribute microlearning, maybe in more unique ways than inside the LMS. And so you might need cross-functional support and available capacity. Again, because it's not just the L&D functions capacity, it could be capacity of stakeholders, it could be SMEs, it could be another team that you need to rely on for their infrastructure, that type of thing. And then here's some guidance to give you. So given your measures that, like, I'm trying to say to you right in here, like, hey, you might have a constraint that limits your microlearning types that you can deliver, like knowledge or skills or performance base. So, and here again, I'm advocating start with the microlearning type in your lowest dimension, because that's going to be your success measure. And then again, create your strategy from there and grow yourselves over time. So those are a lot of the things that I can recommend for you out of this. Now, I wanted to save some space and time here. That's your stocking stuffer, by the way. This little guy here, this is your stocking stuffer. But I wanted to save a little time for any questions, because I can go back through another slide and talk to it a little bit more for you. So why don't we open up for questions? And make sure that you have what you need answered, because this is again, the first part of the series. In the next section, we'll talk about the design principles. We'll kind of look at those. And ELB has been generous enough to let me play with their you see me getting excited. Their micro builder tools. So I get to play with that and then show you some design principles and what it looks like to cut down training and make sure that you're not tapping too hard on the extraneous load and some nerdy science stuff. We'll talk about that in the next session. And then in the third session, I will talk very much about that piloting piece, because that's the third section of the book, is simply piloting and looking at campaign strategy maps and microlearning blueprints. But today's goal was to get you in the mindset of thinking about, do I really know what microlearning is for me, my team, and what my company thinks about it? Do I have a culture that can embrace it? Do I have the capabilities, capacity to do it? So what can I answer for you, good people that have taken their time to join me and ELB today?
No questions have popped up in the Q&A just yet, but maybe we can give everybody a few minutes. few more minutes?
Sure. I'm always welcome to giving a few more minutes for folks. I feel like I see little icons going on, clapping and stuff, but I'm more curious, is this who's been validated today by a show of thumbs up? Who's been validated today and what were you validated on? What was the thing that you already recognized that you're doing? Why don't we do that as a summation? Oh, I'm glad to hear that, Michelle. Or any of the visor pieces, who's been inspired and what are you going to do as your next first step? Because this is the fun part about community of practice, right? You're all a bunch of beautiful people, whether you're in a hot, warm state or a freezing one, you can all share what you've been sparked to do, inspired to do, or go and reflect to do, because you might actually help another person go, oh, I need to go do that too. Thanks for sharing that. So I'd love for you to be the community of practice of great L&D professionals along with me and tell your peers in this chat what you are going to do as your first takeaway from this session. Oh, Matt. So stakeholder expectations versus technology and skill set realities. Everyone has different definition of microlearning. Yes. What do you say to those who define microlearning as passive learning? I think, Shauna, great question. I dig into that for the person depending on who and what their role is. So if it's a stakeholder thinking it's just something passive, I almost often question why we would be doing it because we just went through a discussion where people probably picked up what I was putting down, which is there's a lot of upfront we got to do. So if it's passive learning, go do the quick and easy stuff. But again, that just harkens back to what are we trying to get out of microlearning? If your organization wants it to be passive, then let it be passive. But as you, as the L&D professional, are like, no, there's totally 10 more ways I could use this that's not passive, then I think that's where you need to become that strategic or trusted advisor and give them a bigger scope of opportunity to see how microlearning could be more than just passive learning and say, hey, look, there's other people that use it to help people just do small performance things every day, or they use it to cut down on training. For example, I've worked with companies that take it and cut out a lot of onboarding. There's this like pieces where you just have that standard content and it's baked into like the first maybe hour or 45 minutes of like a face-to-face onboarding with a large group of new hires. They have eviscerated that. They put it in as microlearning that comes out like once a week with the new hire. And the new hire is totally engaged more in getting into their job role faster so that it's a speed to fluency, a speed to competency thing. They were trying to reduce onboarding time for new hires, and microlearning campaigns did that. And so, yes, it was passive because it was all the things that it's like, these are the nice to knows, not the need to knows. So there's a way in which it could be beneficial and passive. So there's a lot of ways in which you could take that question. Again, is it a cultural thing? Do they want to be passive? And it's okay. But it is you, again, in L&D, if you see value in it for something different, something more, help folks see the possibilities and align it to things in your environment, your L&D, what you support, and what that can do for the organization as a benefit. So very good question. I want to go back and peek at some of these things here. Sorry, go ahead, Casey. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I got a few good questions in the Q&A section that I really want to prioritize. Matthew asks, how can you encourage your team to consider or think through current capacities when they have no interest in doing so and just want to get the work done?
I think that's a fully loaded question, Matt. That taps more into my research on how long it takes to develop training because that's a mindset piece, right? That right there, Matt, you've articulated their mindset is I'm here to do work and I'm going to get it done. And so capacity might have to be something that you start to make them more consciously aware of to get them to value it differently, which is not necessarily microlearning related. There's a whole other series that I do on this. So I appreciate the ask, but you have to begin getting rough ballpark numbers to the things that people are doing, or you can't plan and create strategy. That's a reactive group of people that cannot be proactive. I'm hearing just in that question alone, I'm making large assumptions, but I'm hearing reactive people, low processes, organizational maturity within that department might be low. It might be just very ad hoc reactive, maybe a couple processes in place. So one of the things you need to do is begin building conscious awareness. And by doing that, you do things that are more group-based activity with your team, typically around helping them see this is how much time we're spending on X, Y, and Z. These are the rough numbers I've got. Are these right or wrong? And we do like factor of fiction. So we're not blaming anybody. And we kind of get people to start just ruminating on it because to an earlier question about behavior, this is behavioral, and that is not going to be a one and done thing. Getting that conscious awareness up, then getting them to value it are the first two key steps. And that takes repeated effort and repeated engagement around those pieces without a I'm telling you to do so. So I'm sorry I can't answer such a complex question in this moment for you like that, but it's a powerful one. And it's microlearning plus related. So I please, in a moment, I have my next screen I can put up here for you. Make sure to connect with me on LinkedIn. We can talk about that a little more. So thank you for asking it. Casey, what other questions do we have?
Santiago asks, so what is the rule of thumb for duration? 10 minutes or less? Is 30 minutes too long? 15 or 20? What do you think?
If we're focused on the number, we're not focused on the content and the objective at hand. And so typically a microlearning product is usually looking at 1 to 2 learning objectives max. So the time it takes for that topic is arbitrary, right? Like I can't sit here and give a magic number. There is no magic number. We can sit here and say, well, studies say, videos say this or that. Again, what is the content? What is the complexity of the content? What is the context in which that content's being learned? If it is, I'm in the moment, I have somebody on the phone, then I'm imagining that's got to be a short little snippet of information, or it's got to be designed in a way that helps me to think and multitask at the same time to do the thing I need to do. If it's basic content, then maybe it's shorter. But there's so many variables to that, Santiago. Like there is no, I would never, for me personally, as a professional, I never put a timestamp on it and demand that fit because we can't demand each individual participant to a piece of training to get it at the same rate in the same amount of time as the person sitting beside them. It's just not fair. So why would we unfairly do that to the content that we have to put in front of the people or the skills that they have to develop? It's a great question because stakeholders ask it all the time. So we want to have those patent answers, but it depends, comes in, but it's all in how we articulate back again as a trusted advisor and strategic business partner to our stakeholders why we can't format it that way. Like that's, I mean, you could have a range maybe, but I would never say it's absolutely cannot be no longer than 10 minutes. That's not realistic. I've seen pieces of microlearning that are 15 and 17 minutes long, and it's still one objective. It just is what it is. So great, again, great question. I feel like some of you are figuring out some pieces to take back to use as talking points. And I encourage you to, if you're looking for ways to say things, sometimes I put stuff like you're asking in with information like I just shared, and I shove it into AI and I say, how should I handle this with a very difficult stakeholder or SME? And then I describe that stakeholder or SME and their drivers or their motivations or values. And I usually hit the mark pretty good with some ways in which I can get the conversation to move around the way I need it to help them understand that that timestamp takes away all the focus on the really important thing, which is how do we make sure that that participant knows it, can do it, is being well supported, doing what they need to do. Great question again. Casey, any more questions? I love these.
Yeah, that was the last one I saw in the Q&A. So, but there's still time, guys, to throw your questions in there because
Yeah.
it can get buried in the chat. But I think I did dig up a question out of the chat section. I'm not sure if you saw this one yet or addressed it, but Lori asks, do you recommend video as microlearning, or do you think it's also okay to have a regular text-based training as well?
Yes, Lori. Yes. I don't have it in this slide deck, but one of the things I do from a myth busting standpoint is the Learning Guild's one conference post COVID. It was literally the most simple microlearning campaign I'd ever seen. It was a visual image that had three wrists with three different colored bands, and it told you how to engage with the person. I don't want to talk. You can talk. We can bump elbows kind of thing. So anyway, you can have totally visual text-based, like an infographic, because in manufacturing floor plants, video is not something typically used if people can't get off the work floor. So like forklift safety with a QR code and that product called Zapier with an augmented reality overlay. It was a really cool piece. Um, but sometimes we don't need video. Video seems to be the go-to because everybody thinks that's the shortest, easiest way to give information. But one of the things we didn't tap into here is cognitive science. And sometimes we need to break it down a little more, and video is too much noise to actually get at some of the content. So yes, it's absolutely fine to do email, blogs, um, little like newsletters. There's all sorts of ways you can do microlearning that's text-based, that's not video. And I get most things are digital nowadays, other than a printed piece. But it still came from a digital place. But let's not go down that rabbit hole. But Lori, good question. Nothing's off the table when it comes to a product. There is a question here from Dawn that I'm trying to stay on in the chat. It says, what is about presenting live webinars and then chopping the content, recording and the transcript more easily than attending live? If you're doing that, I don't necessarily know how you would be reframing that into microlearning unless you were creating some engagement with it. So if it's just go back and watch this because you missed it, or we're going to repurpose it, there should be something of engagement with it. And by that, I mean something maybe pensive or reflective or an activity. Like once you watch this video, you're going to participate in a discussion, or you're going to fill out this form and go work with your manager, or you're going to create a goal from it, something that engages them so that you have, again, it depends on what you want them to do. If you just want them to watch it for refresh and there's no consequence, then that's passive microlearning. They're just grabbing at it. But if you want it to do something and you want it to move towards something, then I would recommend that it have something wrapped around it that is eliciting some type of performance from the individual that's doing it. So Dawn, that's a really great question. And that's called, so there's like 6 types of microlearning. Like there's pre-microlearning, which I just described, like onboarding, like getting everybody learning the same thing before they come in for group training. That's like pre. There's post, kind of what like Dawn's describing. There's pensive, reflective. There's practice, skill development, that type of thing. There's performance in the moment. And again, you could create something that's pensive plus practice. Like you can combine them all together, or you can leave them discrete. That's the fun about microlearning. It can help you in all sorts of ways, where maybe the long form gets too much or overbearing to be doing that. And some more mess questions. Oh, what is LearnOps? LearnOps is a community that I'm a part of, and I was kind of glad it was on the slide because of Matt's questions around capacity and management. And that's where those folks fit in for you. They really help people understand better the capacity of their organization. Another great tool to have in your toolkit, as I like to say. Let's see. In the campaign, I built that series so they can. Hey, so to Sarah's point, some people think you need. So I'm going to dispel one more myth before we've got to go. I actually wrote an article on this for the Da Vinci Institute, but they wanted to have me go from the angle of microlearning being a cure-all for like the short attention span of the growing generations in front of us because of the digital age. And actually, I used from Harvard Business Review data on Netflix consumption to dispel the notion that microlearning is only a great solution for short attention spans. That's not true. Because if you have a microlearning campaign, much to Sarah's point, you might create an arc in that campaign to help people. And that's where things like the terms desirable difficulty come in. But it's the binge. So a binge watcher usually watches 5.5 hours of something. So it dispels the myth that everything has to be short, because if we can binge watch a show for 5.5 hours, that tells you that the design of that series, that movie was so engaging that you watched all of it. And so we can take a lesson from that Netflix data and start asking questions about design. And that's where we get in session two, um, which is talking all about what we're going to do with our microlearning to keep it engaging so that it isn't just a snippet that we have in the moment and we forget about it. Um, I would set, when is session two? You know what, Casey? I'm not sure if we put a timestamp on session two, did we?
Not just yet. We're
Yes.
to TBD.
It'll be either somewhere in January or early February, I believe, because with the book coming out in March, we'll definitely want to get one more in before it comes out. And again, that question about LearnOps. LearnOps is a community for those that are practicing in L&D, looking for ways to better understand their capacity, and maturing their operational functions. So think of L&D maturity that way. And I support that as well because it's such a big part of it's such a peel back the layers thing that happens with microlearning when people really start to take hold and try to use it as a strategy. They start to see some operational functions that aren't mature enough, that are making it harder for them to do microlearning the way they want to from a strategic level. So that's why I place it there as another avenue for supporting you in your endeavors with microlearning. So I would like to thank Casey and ELB Learning for being awesome hosts and sponsors of this webinar for me. And I want to thank you all for spending part of your afternoon with me on Friday Junior. I don't know what you call your Thursdays, but it's Friday Junior here in Pennsylvania. And I just want to thank you for your time and your questions because you're awesome. And please find me on LinkedIn so that we can keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. Thank you so, so much, Robyn, for sharing your wisdom with us. Thank you all for joining us for the last webinar of the year. Please take advantage of our free strategy session. Let us know in the closing survey that'll pop up as soon as we wrap up here. We are cooking up some great content for you next year, including more from Robyn, and we hope to see you all then. Thank you so much.